The views and opinions expressed by the hosts and guests do not state or reflect those of the movement. Sa history, marami ang nalilito kung ano ba ang tunay, ano ba ang kwento. Pakinggan natin ang mga dalubhasa. Intindihin ang kasalukuyan sa pag-aaral ng nakaraan. Tayo na't makilahok sa ating talakayan. Ito ang Historyl, ang katotohanan sa ating kasaysayan at lipunan. Good day ulit mga katoto! Welcome na naman sa isang episode ng Historyl, ang katotohanan sa ating kasaysayan at lipunan. Ako po muli ang inyong host, si John Kevin Samson. Para sa episode na to, napaka-exciting ng ating topic. Very fresh from the press. Actually, hindi press kasi isa siyang pelikula. So, isa sa mga pelikulang lumabas noong Metro Manila Film Festival noong 2023 ay ang Gombursa sa direksyon ni Pepe Jokno. Ito ay pelikula na naglalahad ng kwento ni na Padre Marian Gomez, Padre Jose Burgos at Padre Jacinto Zamora, ang tatlong paring martir na binitay sa pamamagitan ng garote ng mga Kastila noong 1872 o mas kilala natin sa pangalang Majoha. Biro lang po. Sa pangalang Gombursa. Diba? Humakot ito ng napakaraming gantimpala tulad ng Best Screenplay, Best Cinematography at ang Gatuno at Tonyo J. Villegas Cultural Award. At noong ika-9 ng Abril 2024, kasabay ng Araw ng Kagitingan, ito rin ay available na sa Netflix. And as of recording, very proud ako, 2 beses ko na siyang napanood. No? So medyo nakaka-addict siyang panoorin. Kaya naman, sa episode na ito, kasama ko po ang aking kaibigan na si Sir Jamaico Ignacio upang pag-usapan namin ang ilan sa mga katanungan at curiosities ko personally tungkol sa pelikula. Kaya naman, kung hindi nyo pa napapanood ang pelikulang ito, i-pause nyo muna dito at panoorin nyo muna ang pelikulang Gombursa, no, sa Netflix o kung saan man kayo may streaming device, hopefully yung legal, na nanonood na manonood ng pelikula. So, panoorin nyo muna dahil medyo spoiler heavy yung aming podcast. I'm a sucker for historical films. Tuwing may historical film na lalabas, panonoorin ko talaga yan. No? Pero kung napanood nyo na, tara at pag-usapan na natin ang Gombursa. So, Sir Jamaico, welcome po sa ating episode ngayong araw.
Thank you, Kevin. I'm looking forward to this discussion. Let's do this!
Oo naman. Napaka-gandang pelikula, no? Ito, mga curiosities ko na itatanong ko sa inyo, no? So, pwedeng na-miss out ko sa film, pwedeng di ko talaga alam kasi historical, siguro mapag-uusapan na rin natin yung historical accuracy ng film. But part naman yon, I'm sure the producers know that this will happen. Sige, simulan na natin, no? Ang unang-una kong curiosity, right off the bat, no? Dahil sobrang igsi lang ng kanyang screen time sa pelikula, itong si Hermano Pule o Hermano Pule, no? Sino ba tong Hermano Pule na to? At na gumawa nung kanyang parang religious group nung time ng mga Spaniards. At ang isang magandang, siguro mas interesting na tanong sa akin, nag-i-exist pa ba? Meron pa ba nung grupo ni Hermano Pule?
Okay, before I answer that, let me just clarify. Being a history major, hindi ko to expertise, but I know the sources that can be utilized in answering all of your questions. Gusto ko lang i-cite para masabi may pinanggagalingan po tayo. Para real nga to, history nga to eh. Hindi tayo fake news. Okay? Much of the sources that I got mainly taken from publications from Ambeto Campo, Xiao Chua, and the eminent professor and Jesuit, the late Professor Father Schumacher. Si Father Schumacher kasi yung parang pinaka-go-to ng mga history majors tulad ko nung ako'y nag-aaral pa sa grad school. Kung gusto naming pag-aralan yung church history and Philippine history. So laging mga publications si Father Schumacher yung pinupuntahan namin upang ma-address yung mga kasagutan na binibigay sa amin ng mga professor namin. So to our listeners, read up on Father John Schumacher. May God bless his soul. Now to answer your question, Hermano Pule, or his actual name, Apolinario de la Cruz, was born in Lucban in Tayabas, which is now Quezon Province. He was originally a lay brother or a donado doon sa San Juan de Dios Hospital. And he was raised in a religious family. That's why he has a strong affiliation for anything religious, according to sources that I've read. And he was so religious that he wanted to enter the priesthood. Pero dahil limitado lang siya para sa mga Espanyol, o yung mga gusto ng mga Espanyol, hindi siya pinayagan. That's why he established his own religious group called the Cofradia de San Juan de Dios. It's a brotherhood of Indios, and much of the religious ceremonies were spoken in Tagalog, in the vernacular. Kaya naging popular yung religious order niya or religious group, yung religious brotherhood, na iintindihan siya ng mga Filipino, or rather during that time, ng mga Indios, kaya patok na patok siya. At kadalasan yung mga religious ceremonies nila, ginagawa nila sa Mount Banahaw, and he had a very strong network from Tayabas to Laguna, or Quezon Province right now, yung Tayabas. So it became an alternative to the Spanish religious ceremonies. Unfortunately, nung napansin to ng mga religious Spaniards, hindi nila nagustuhan kasi gumagamit din sila ng anting-anting. Yung anting-anting, that's more of a pre-colonial heritage. Yung paggamit ng anting-anting, medyo hindi nagustuhan ng mga religious orders during that time. In addition to that, dahil quote-unquote pang-Indio lamang siya, bawal yung mga Espanyol dito sa kanilang mga ceremony, nagkaroon ng suspicion yung Spanish authorities to the point na they were suspecting na they were preparing a rebellion against the Spanish authorities. So nagkaroon ng suspicion. So that's why they looked into it, and there was an attempt to quell them. Pero umatake, they defended themselves, yung Confradia ni Apolinario de la Cruz or ni Hermano Pule. At first, they were able to defeat the initial Spanish attacks, but later on, nakwell din sila. And later on, Apolinario de la Cruz or Hermano Pule will be captured. He will go to court. He will be executed by firing squad. Tapos hahatiin yung kanyang katawan. He will be quartered. Tapos yung kanyang binti, yung kanyang paa, ipapakita sa iba't bahagi ng Tayabas as a warning na kapag gagawin niyo ulit to, yan ang mangyayari sa inyo. Now, yung group niya hindi nag-survive, but there were members who still practiced doon sa mga natutunan nila sa Confradia de San Jose. And one practice that they did during that time was to say the term secula seculorum. That's a Latin term for unto the ages of ages. Ngayon, yung seculorum, yung Latin term na yon, later on, na-corrupt siya at ginagamit siya to refer to religious groups na quote-unquote illegal, colorum. Kaya, later on, nag-evolve yung term na colorum. Yung term na colorum ngayon, naging reference siya sa lahat ng illegal. Kaya lahat ng mga tawag natin sa mga illegal na bus, mga
FX yan.
Mga FX, correct. So, to answer your question, no, wala na sila.
Wala na sila. Okay. At maraming salamat. No? So ano pala talaga, very religious pala to si Hermano Pule. Sadly, ang interpretation ng kanyang grupo is for revolutionary purposes. No? So, ito, second question. Ano nangyari ito, may si Padre Burgos, tama no, si Burgos yung nasa gitna. Si Padre Burgos ay nagkaroon ng dalawang prominenteng mag-aaral. At sa pelikula, pinakitang dalawang prominenteng mag-aaral na sina Pasiano Mercado at sila Felipe Buencamino. Ngayon, aminin ko sa inyo, itong Pasiano Mercado na to, it went right off my head. No? Parang he sounded familiar, pero it was only when sa film, when Teodoro Alonso was arrested, that it occurred to me, si Pasiano, kuya ni Jose Rizal, no?
Correct.
So, I think they intended actually to use Pasiano Mercado instead of Pasiano Rizal para ma-throw away tayo na lalabas si Rizal sa film. That happened because Felipe Buencamino was the one familiar to me. I told you, I'm a sucker for history films, no? So, what happened to Pasiano Mercado and Felipe Buencamino after the events of the movie? And is this Felipe Buencamino the same Buencamino or yung kaparehong Felipe Buencamino na parte ng gabinete ni General Emilio Aguinaldo dun sa pelikulang General Luna?
Okay. Unahin muna natin si Pasiano before Buencamino.
Sige.
Based from the readings that I delved into, primarily from Xiao Chua, Professor Xiao Chua, si Pasiano, he was very devastated and very frustrated dun sa nangyari kay Padre Jose Burgos. In fact, after what happened to Burgos, nag-lay low siya. And it came to the point wherein nung ine-enroll na nila si Pepe or si Jose, they realized na baka magka-problema si Pepe because yung affiliation nga ni Pasiano with Burgos, with what happened in the film. So there was a consensus na baka kailangan magbago ng pangalan from Mercado to Rizal. That's why when Jose entered Ateneo, hindi na siya Jose Mercado, naging Jose Rizal na siya pagpasok. Kasi ayaw niya magka-problema si Pepe doon sa mga nangyari sa kanya with sa kanyang kuya. So, now, na-frustrate din siya kasi later on, yung kapatid naman niya, magkakaproblema sa Spanish authorities. At nung execute yung kanyang kapatid, punot dulo, dalawang kakilala niya na-execute na ng Espanyol. Si Padre Burgos, yung beloved teacher niya, tapos yung kapatid niya. So, he would later on join Emilio Aguinaldo and he will be designated as a general under the Philippine Revolution kasi medyo na halata naman yung galit niya doon sa mga nangyari sa kanyang buhay. Unfortunately, to cut the story short, na-arresto siya ng mga Amerikano upon the Philippine-American War in 1900s. But he followed Emilio Aguinaldo's orders to fight on kahit nung dumating ng mga Amerikano. But nung time ng Spanish era, ng Philippine Revolution during the Spanish era, he really fought on. Nung American time, he still fought on, pero nahuli siya. Nice. Nung nahuli siya, medyo malungkot. According to sources, he went into a life of seclusion. There were a lot of people who knew that he was the brother of Jose Rizal. During that time, he was still alive, nung early 1900s. And when they found out na kapatid siya, they wanted to have interviews with him. And most of the time, tina-turn down yung interviews. Mukhang heartbroken siya nung namatay siya kasi maraming mga loved ones niya yung namatay. Unfortunately though, may mga descendants siya and most of the Rizal descendants can be traced to Pasiano Rizal. In fact, sa university na affiliated tayo na hindi natin babanggitin, some of his descendants are actually studying in our institution.
Talaga?
And, yes, estudyante ko yung isa doon. Hindi ko lang babanggitin sino kasi wala akong consent. So, hindi ko lang babanggitin sino. Pero I've heard a lot of good stories from him and I'm really a proud teacher na estudyante ko yung isang Rizal descendant. Anyway, that's Pasiano Rizal. Next naman si Felipe Buencamino. You're correct. It's the same Buencamino. And as you saw in the film, he was arrested. And according to Schumacher, matagal-tagal yung pagka-aresto niya, 4 months. 4 na buwan siya na na-aresto for calling for liberalism during that time. When he was released, mukhang na-trauma siya at mukhang dinala niya yung trauma niya. Mukhang dinala niya yung trauma niya doon sa pagkatanda niya. That's why when the America, di ba, naging cabinet member siya ni Aguinaldo. Noong nananalo yung mga revolutionaries against Spain, todo yung suporta niya, patriotic. Nung dumating ang Amerikano at mukhang nananalo yung Amerikano, mukhang I don't know, it's just my own inference. Doon nag-kick in yung trauma. Baka medyo kailangan natin pagbigyan yung mga Amerikano. So later on, nung surrender siya, alongside the other Philippine revolutionary leaders, he was a member of the Malolos Congress and a cabinet member of Aguinaldo. Na-arresto siya pero he would later on be released. And during the US occupation of the Philippines, he co-founded the Federalista Party. It's the Philippine-based party that wanted the Philippines to become a US state. So later on, he would do that, pero he would die as an old person, as an old man. They both died as in their old age, pero mukhang yung isa died heartbroken, yung isa died fighting for the Philippines to become a US state. So yun yung kanilang fate, kanilang destiny.
So parang yung sinabi nga ni General Luna, yung isa pinili ang bayan, yung isa pinili ang negosyo. No?
Correct.
So,
nakatotoo yun.
Grabe, ang haba pala, no? Talagang connect, no? Anyway, no? Sige. Ito is isang curiosity to kasi ito napaka-dark. Sobrang dark. Probably ito yung part na nung napapanood yung pelikula, sobrang my God, sobrang dark nitong part na to. Si Padre Burgos ay nakita natin much later in the middle of the film sa bahay ni Padre Zamora. Or hindi ko alam kung bahay ni Padre Zamora yon or priests even allowed to have their own homes. Pero si Padre Zamora kasi, played by Enchong D, no? Si Padre Zamora, inaalagaan niya yung isang matandang pare. No?
Yeah.
And then, parang sa scene, bigla na lang na andoon si Padre Burgos na parang, uy, kailan ka nagpunta dyan? Kailan ka dumalaw dyan? Di ba, nagtuturo ka, parang ganyan. So, ang una kong tanong, si Padre Zamora kasi bihirang-bihira pinapakita dun sa pelikula di ba? Pinapakita lang pagka yung nagsusugal siya. In fact, the first time he was shown, nung ordination lang nila ni Padre Burgos. So, bakit andun si Padre Burgos sa bahay ni Padre Zamora? I mean, are they even close? Kasi parang si Padre Burgos, ang lagi niyang kasama si Padre Gomez and nung buhay pa si Padre Peláez, di ba?
Correct.
So are they even close? Do they even know each other? No?
Yes.
Because later we know, or at least sa mga nakikinig, sana alam nyo, no? Kung napanood nyo yung pelikula, Padre Zamora will be arrested alongside Padre Burgos for being there. Parang ganun yung lumalabas, for being there. Okay? So, ano ba yun? Ba't andun si Padre Burgos and close ba sila? Friends ba sila? Or ano?
Okay. Again, I'm gonna quote Father John Schumacher.
Yeah.
Dun sa, this time, ang i-quote ko ay from his book that is published in the Ateneo Press, yung The Cavite Mutiny Toward a Definite History, published in 2011. Sabi ni Father John Schumacher, Father Zamora lived with a very old priest named Father Miguel de Laza. Father Miguel de Laza was very, very sick. Dahil magkasama sila sa bahay, inaalagaan ni Father Zamora yung si matandang parin, si Father Miguel de Laza. So he needed help. So ang available during that time, at least based from my inference from this article, available during that time si Father Burgos. But just to be clear, they're not close friends. I think the best term is they are colleagues or acquaintances at best. So, tumutulong lang siya kasi kapan niyang pare yung nagkakasakit. He was there not for Padre Zamora. He was more of there to help.
For the old priest.
Correct. Si Father Miguel de Laza. Malas lang ni Padre Zamora, na-implicate na si Padre Burgos nung time na yon because of the Cavite Mutiny. So, he was arrested habang tumutulong siya doon kay Father Miguel de Laza. So, he was arrested in that house. Medyo naiba lang doon sa film ay yung timeline. Nung aresto si Padre Burgos, they searched the house. So, they didn't arrested Father Zamora, then nakasabayan ni Padre Burgos. Sinearch na nila yung bahay. And when they searched the house, and you know, if you watch the film, you know he's a gambler. And he is a gambler. They found a note. Few hours later, they found a note in relation to quote, bullets and powder. In gambling parlance during that time, that is related to magdala ka ng pera sa gambling. Yun yung nagamit.
Yun yung evidence agad sa kanya, di ba?
Nagamit na evidence sa kanya. So, because of that note, na-arresto din siya. So, kawawa siya. On that basis, Zamora was arrested. Kaya, medyo tama rin yung nakita natin sa film. Mukhang busit siya. Dahil
he gave up, di ba? And parang sumuko na siya sa buhay. I mean, because that's frustrating, no? That's right. You know, one of sometimes, no, we want to be, gusto natin maging bayani, and you know, Padre Zamora is one of these martyr priests, di ba? Martyr na pare. Pero come to think of it, knowing his history, my goodness, Padre Zamora was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Or rather, Padre Burgos was there, and then Padre Zamora was implicated, di ba? This person does not even want, you know, does not even want anything to do with Padre Burgos, with the Los Filipinos, with Padre Pelaez. And then all of a sudden, what? His life is forfeit like that.
Kaya nung in-execute sila later on, pinakita sa film, he was dazed. That's the exact term na ginamit ng mga witnesses. Dazed, as in lutang siya. Kasi mukhang natanto nila, bakit ako nandito? Bakit niyo ako papatayin? So, malas. I think yun yung pinaka-term. Malas si Padre Zamora sa kanilang tatlo.
Diyos ko, grabe. No? And while I was watching, no, that's probably one of the pinaka-nang gigigil ako sa pelikula. Parang, my God, literal, this priest has done nothing wrong. This priest has done nothing wrong. Talagang wala. Wala siyang ginawa. Walang mabuti, walang masama. Walang ginawa. Yun lang. Diba? Talagang wala siyang ginagawa. My goodness. Well, diba? So, grabe. No? So, medyo dark yung arrest kay Padre Zamora on the mere, just because Padre Burgos happened to be there.
Pero mali pa rin yung ginawa sa kanya kasi inosente pa rin siya. So,
diba? Mali naman. Maling-mali yan. No? And speaking of people who were arrested that time, no? Meron yung grupong yung Los Filipinos, 'di ba, yung grupo nung mga parang mga negosyante na one of them portrayed by Epi Quizon, 'di ba?
Correct.
At the end of the film, the Gobernadorcillo sent them in exile.
Correct.
Pinatapon sila. My question is, kasi these are prominent people. I think yung mga pangalan nila nakikita pa natin sa mga kalsada sa Maynila or mga stasyon ng tren, di ba? Were they able to return to the Philippines?
Just to be clear, this group, they didn't really have a formal name.
Okay.
Yung word na yung term na Los Filipinos, that's more of an inspiration based on the film, but there was no attributed group name for this group of rich people. For example, yung pinortray ni Epi Quezon, si Joaquin Pardo de Tavera, there's no walang term talaga na ginamit. I think for the sake of creative license, ginamit yung term na yon. At any rate, yung grupo nila, halimbawa yung grupo nila Joaquin Pardo de Tavera, a lot of them were either sent to Guam or to the Marianas Islands, or basically the Spanish East Indies. So mga isla sa Pacific sila pinadala. And some of them returned. Halimbawa si Maximo Inocencio, portrayed by Neil Ryan Sese. Later on, he will join the Katipunan and he will be one of the main fund. Siya yung sa mga magpa-fund ng Katipunan. But maaresto din siya alongside 12 other Caviteños, and he will be found guilty for rebellion because of his affiliation with the Katipunan. And on September 11, he will be executed on September 11, 1896, after a hasty trial by Spanish military court. Tapos yung case niya, umabot lang ng 4 hours. So, to cut the story short, yes, nakabalik yung marami sa kanila, but it's not an actual organized group like the Katipunan. It's more of a loose group with an informal name. So there.
Okay. So thank you, no. Yeah, very familiar yung names ng mga nabanggit mo, si Padre Pardo de Tavera, Maximo Inocencio. All right. So Diyos ko, napakarami pang curiosities, no. Baka nga in some other episodes later on, baka pag-usapan natin Luna, Goyo. Pero Yun lang, no? Yun yung mga curiosities ko so far. And bago tayo magpatuloy sa mga nakitira kong curiosities, siguro kailangan muna natin ng break para sa atin ding mga katoto na nakikinig, no? Ma-process nila yung mga information. And again, kung di nyo pa napapanood yung pelikula, I'm sure na spoil na kayo. So please, panoorin nyo muna yung film bago nyo pakinggan to.
Dapat lang.
So magkakaroon muna kami ng break at magbabalik ang History Reel, ang katotohanan sa ating kasaysayan at lipunan. At nagbabalik kami mga katoto dito sa History Reel, ang katotohanan sa ating kasaysayan at lipunan. So para po sa refresher lang, no? Pinag-uusapan namin yung mga questions ko, yung mga katanungan ko tungkol dun sa pelikulang Kumpursa na lumabas sa Metro Manila Film Festival noong December 25, 2023 at nasa Netflix, available siya sa Netflix simula April 9, 2024. So, panoorin nyo habang nasa Netflix pa, no? Or hopefully, sa mga streaming devices kung saan siya available in the future.
Yeah. Support
right.
Filipino films in Netflix.
Support Filipino films in Netflix, no? Marami pa dyan. Yung, Rewind, tsaka yung, Becky and Badet ba yun?
Yeah.
Mali yata yung title ko. Well, anyway, I digress, but balik tayo sa ating historical film, Kumpursa.
Right.
So napag-uusapan natin, ang huli natin pinag-usapan yung mga Los Filipinos, no, na apparently that's not an official name. Parang Church of Freedom. Yun yung pangalan.
Pag-gets ba ng ating listeners ano yung Church of Freedom?
Ano yan? Pag naging historical na, sasabihin natin sa history. Anyway, baka sabihin, heretic tayo. Hindi po, ako po yung grupo yun po yun ng mga magkakaibigang lumalabas tuwing Biyernes. Anyway. Alright. So, dahil nabanggit ang mga kasapi ng Los Filipinos, may isang prominent, or at least sa pelikula, no, napaka kilalang tao nito dahil siya ay pinortray none other than ni Ketchup, no? Napansin ko lang sa mga character ni Ketchup sa mga ganitong film, parang laging siya yung I don't know, di ba? Nung nasa pelikula siyang General Luna, siya rin ang nag-traidor kay General Luna. At dito sa pelikulang to, siya rin ang nag-traidor kay Padre Burgos. Pero sino ba tong character ni Ketchup na si Francisco Zaldúa? If you've seen the film, we've seen the film. So for our listeners, if you've seen the film, you know na siya yung naglaglag, or at least he sold out Padre Burgos, no? With a very Padre Burgos responding with a very angry, hindi ko nga kilala to, sino ba to? Ngayon ko nakita tong taong to, no? Pero bago yung events ng movie, sino ba to si Francisco Zaldúa at how did he get acquainted with the quote Los Filipinos?
Okay. Let me just quote first an article written by Ambeto Campo. He says, Zaldúa is the fourth man justly forgotten because the case against Gomburza was built largely on his testimony. He was said to have ratted on the priest in exchange for a pardon and got what he deserved by being executed first. Kasi mukhang siya ay na-coerced into implicating the three priests for execution. Now, looking into the sources mentioned, wala masyado about his background. Ang alam lang natin ay may asawa siya at siya ay artilleryman na na-capture around the same night nung nangyari yung Cavite Mutiny. But otherwise, wala masyadong sources about his context. Lima na lang kung may mahanap yung historians natin. We can add to that. But for now, wala masyado. So, mukhang tama si Ambeto Campo. Justly forgotten.
Justly forgotten, no? Grabe. So, tatandaan nyo po, mga katoto, ang kinalilimutan, yung mga nagtatraidor sa bayan. Kalimutan yan. Pero ang kasaysayan, wag ninyong kakalimutan yan. Alright. Okay, so, too bad for Francisco Zaldúa. Could have lived a nice, peaceful, happy life. But, yun talaga, di ba? Minsan, nasisilaw tayo sa mga pangako ng kung ano-ano. Anyway, speaking of people who are forgotten in history, ito hindi naman siguro to forgotten, pero dahil sobrang random niya, napansin ko lang, tuwing ipapakita yung mga Recoletos dun sa pelikula, napansin ko meron silang servant, yung guy na long hair na medyo wavy, siya kulot eh. Wavy yung buhok niya. There's this servant ng mga Recoletos na parang lagi siyang na-emphasize sa film, but he never spoke. Or I think he said just 1 or 2 lines na forgettable din, di ba? Pero at the end of the film, pinakita na suot niya yung sombrerong KKK. Now, definitely, I know that's not Andres Bonifacio, because Andres Bonifacio has never been portrayed with long hair, no?
Yeah.
And if I remember it right, contemporary ni Rizal si Bonifacio, so he can't be that man kasi matanda na yung type guy na yon. Eh nung time na to, bata pa si Rizal. One of my theories, no, is that he's a regular guy, pero the film is just emphasizing na kaya siya andun is para ipakita sa ating mga viewers na kaya namin alam itong mga historical things na to ay dahil may mga saksi or may mga witnesses na nakakakita. May primary sources tayo. Pero to clarify that, sino ba tong taong to?
Your assumption is correct, actually.
Okay.
I read in one of the articles, I just forgot which one. One of the producers mentioned the servant, he symbolized the ordinary Filipino during that time who witnessed all of this. If you notice, during the start, he was subservient to the Recoletos, dun sa mga Espanyol na praile. Pero habang tumatagal, kung titingnan niyo yung mukha, nag-iisip siya dun sa mga nangyayari. Then come to the execution part, nandoon din siya. Nakita mo yung kanyang yung mukha niya na he's very indignant, he's very frustrated, he's very angry. Bakit nangyayari to? Why are you executing people who are simply asking for liberalism, for a little bit of better life for most of the quote-unquote Indios? And later in the last part of the film, makikita mo na siya ay quote-unquote sumali sa Katipunan. That's why he was wearing the hat with the KKK. Doon mo makikita that he symbolized the evolution of the Filipino from a subservient Indio, tapos nag-evolve siya dun sa indignant Filipino, dun sa execution. Then later on, the Filipino, he became a revolutionary Filipino, fighting for their independence, for their rights from the oppressors. So you're correct. Symbolismo siya.
Okay. Napakagandang symbolismo, napakagandang character to be in the background, pero noticeable enough to be a symbol na later on talaga mapapaisip ka, sino ba tong taong to? And you realize it's you, the Filipino. That's you. That's literally you. So, no? So parang siya tayo, mga Pilipino. Okay. And speaking of witnesses sa execution ng tatlong paring martir. And of course, even if we have not seen the film, we know that that's the ending of the film, diba?
Correct.
I think that's a basic factual knowledge naman na sana natututunan ng mga bata sa history, whether nasa grade 6 man yan or grade 7 or senior high, no? Pero so balik tayo, may mga nakasaksi dun sa pagbitay sa tatlong pare, and apparently kay Francisco Zaldúa, kay Ketchup, no? One of the things na talagang naitanong ko, and kating-kati talaga ako itanong to, no? Kasi I think that was that's a contestable scene in the film is that we know that or at least at some point I've been informed that the novel El Filibusterismo of Jose Rizal was inspired by the three martyr priests, particularly by their execution. No?
Yes.
And one thing that the film showed us is Pasiano Mercado brought his brother Jose Rizal in the execution. So Rizal was there. I've been asking around people if Rizal about that. And now, one of the, siguro isa sa mga magandang isettle natin is, naroon ba si Rizal, or okay, sorry, may Rizal doon, si Pasiano eh. Pero nandoon ba si Jose Rizal nang garotihin ang tatlong pari na iyon?
The answer there is no, wala siya. I'm assuming that's more of a creative license from the part of the filmmakers, from the producers. Now, I think they're trying to emphasize the idea that was advocated by one of our more eminent nationalist historians, si Teodoro Agoncillo. What did Teodoro Agoncillo say? Ang sabi niya, Philippine history actually started around 1872 when the Gomburza was executed. Why? If you're going to look back into the film, 'di ba, yung isa sa mga may mga mestizo noon, tinanong yung kanilang Indiong servant, ano man tawag mo sa sarili mo? Pilipino? Hindi niya alam ano yung Pilipino. Sinabi niya, ako po ay isang Tagalog, sir. 'Di ba? Sir. Ako sa akin galing 'yan. Anyway, before that kasi Filipinos or the Indios, they didn't have a concept of nation. They identified themselves either as Tagalog, Ilocano, Cebuano, etc. So, highly divided yung Pilipinas kasi iba-iba yung ating mga affiliation. Pero nung in-execute yung Gomburza, doon nagkaroon ng nationalist concept of Philippines because there's a desire to overthrow the abuses of the Spaniards and establish first equality for Filipinos kasi ayaw nila na inaabos sila, sana tingin ay pagkapatay-patay, at yung idea na yon mag-evolve into independence once we enter the Philippine revolutionary stage of our country. Ang hinahammer siguro doon nung film ay because Rizal was one of the reasons why nangyari yung Philippine Revolution kasi sa kanya nagsimula yung idea ng Filipino being a concept, a nation, and a concept of nation, kaya nga ang tawag sa kanya ay the first Filipino. Ang hinahammer doon ay na-inspire si Rizal doon sa execution ng Gomburza. Now, even though he did not witness it personally, he was very close to Pasiano. Was very close to his kuya. Kaya yung mga kwento ng kanyang kuya, doon niya nakuha yung idea na hindi tama to nangyayari. At upang mapigilan to, we have to ask for equality. And we can only do that if we advocate it as a Filipino, as a nation. And yung idea ng equality later on mag-evolve yan kasi may execute siya. People like Bonifacio, instead of just asking for equality, they ask for independence. So, I think what they're saying is Gomburza being witnessed by Rizal, and later on it will affect in the film. It would affect the Katipuneros in the revolution started the idea of the Filipino nation.
So ano pala no, kahit kaya nangyari to, kaya ito na-witness ni Rizal or narinig niya lang sa kwento ni Pasiano, it did no talagang it did affect not only Rizal's actually because after Rizal yung mga kwento niya, yung mga nilathala niya, yung kanyang execution, lahat ito ay naka-apekto sa pag-iisip ng mga revolutionaryong Pilipino nung panahon na yun. No?
In fact, let me just add, Ocampo said this in one of his articles. Let me quote him. Jose Rizal dedicated the second novel, El Filibusterismo, to the martyr priest. He even declared in a letter that without 1872, there would have been no Plaridel, Haina, Santiago, or these other Filipino patriots, nor would have the brave and generous Filipino colonies in Europe have existed. Without 1872, Rizal would now have been a Jesuit, and instead of writing Noli Me Tangere, quoting Rizal, naging Jesuita na daw dapat si Rizal from his own words, and not writing Noli Me Tangere if it weren't for 1872.
Yung palang naging effect yun ang snowball effect ng Gomburza sa kasaysayan ng Pilipinas from 1872 down onwards. Grabe, no? Talagang napaka far-reaching, napakalayo ng naabot ng impluwensya nila Father Gomez, Father Burgos. And I don't know if this is fortunately or unfortunately for Father Zamora. No? So, siguro at this point, Sir Jamaico, what are your takeaways from this film, Gomburza?
Let's be clear. Films are not documentaries. Hindi siya, ang isang film is always designed to be creative. It's not designed to be 100% accurate. Kaya nga nakita natin Rizal being witnessing the Gomburza execution. That didn't happen. He heard about it from his kuya, but that did not happen. Yung timeline ng pagka-aresto, di naman sila eksaktong sabay na inaresto. May pagitan ng pagka-aresto between Burgos and Zamora. May iba't iba pang creative licenses nangyari doon sa film na hindi 100% accurate. But very faithful yung kanyang zeitgeist doon sa nangyari talaga nung panahon yun. So in the study of history, there's this idea called zeitgeist or the spirit of the times. Pag sinabi natin zeitgeist, kinakapture niya yung pakiramdam, yung talagang accuracy ng mga kaganapan nangyari nung panahon yun. Yung bakit nangyari ang kasaysayan nung kapanahonan yun. At na-capture nga ni Gomburza, ng film Gomburza, yung zeitgeist, yung mga nangyari, yung pakiramdam, yung appreciation doon sa bakit nangyari itong mga kaganapang ito nung panahon yun. And the mere fact, there are a lot of people who are now looking into Gomburza. There are a lot of people who are interested in reading more history about Gomburza and Philippine history in general. The mere fact na maraming Pilipino na may pagnanasang alamin yung ating heritage because of this film, mukhang natumbok niya. And I think that's what's important. Because the film is not a documentary, but its objective of inflaming our love for history, I think na-meet naman niya.
And totoo ka dyan, no? As I've mentioned, tama ka dyan, Sir Jamaico. As I've mentioned, again, sobrang hilig ko sa mga historical films. Baka nga mamaya manood ako ng Schindler's List. Hindi yun Philippine history, but it's, in a way, it reflects yung historical time ng araw na yun. Correct. And tama ka, no? Films like this, stories like these, na basta na mapag-uusapan natin, magkakaroon tayo ng isang civil and diplomatic conversation about historical events para maklaro ang mga bagay-bagay ay nakakatulong. Hindi lamang sa ating hindi lamang para ma-satisfy yung ating mga curiosities tulad ng ginawa natin sa podcast na ito to satisfy my personal curiosities, pero para maging avenue siya na ma-realize natin kung gaano kahalaga ang kasaysayan sa isang lipunan, no? At hindi lang kasaysayan, yung tamang at totoong paglalatag ng kasaysayan, hindi revision na may malicious intent, hindi distortion, kumbaga yung pawang katotohanan lang ng kasaysayan sa ating lipunan. So maraming salamat po sa inyong takeaway na yun. At para tapusin ang episode na to, napaka fun-filled at curiosity-filled na episode na ito, akin lamang babasahin ang isang linya na isinulat ni Rizal sa Noli Me Tangere, na isang linyang sinabi ni Elias sa katapusan ng nobelang Noli Me Tangere. Ako'y mamamatay na hindi man lamang nakita ang maningning na pagbubukang liwayway sa aking bayan. Kayong makakakita, batiin ninyo siya at huwag kalilimutan ang mga nalugmok sa dilim ng gabi. Tila ba ang mga salitang ito, bagamat sinambit ni Elias sa nobelang Noli Me Tangere, ay para bang mga salita na rin nila Padre Gomez, Padre Burgos at Padre Zamora nang sila ay mamatay nung sila ay bitayin sa garote. Pero tulad na lang ng ilan nating mga bayani, sana ang makasaysayang kwento ng Gomburza na nagmitya ng mga revolusyong nagbunga sa kalayaan ng Pilipinas ay magbigay inspirasyon sa atin na laging hanapin ang liwanag sa kadiliman, na maging liwanag sa gitna ng kadiliman at maging ehemplo ng kabayanihan at kagitingan para sa ating pamilya, sa ating komunidad at sa ating bayan. Maraming salamat po muli, Sir Jamaico, sa pagsama sa akin dito sa episode na to para pagkwentuhan ang pelikulang Gomburza, at maraming salamat sa ating mga katoto na nakinig sa ating episode ngayong araw. Sana po ay meron kayong natutunan sa ating podcast for today. Muli, ako po ang inyong lingkod na si John Kevin Samson, at ito ang History Real, ang katotohanan sa ating kasaysayan at lipunan. Paalam, panoorin ninyo ang Gomburza na sa Netflix!
Thank you po. Watch our films in Netflix. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.